Welcome to Logistics Business Conversations, where we talk with key spokespeople in the logistics industry about topical issues. Hosted by Peter MacLeod, editor of Logistics Business magazine.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the latest edition of Logistics Business Conversations. I'm Peter MacLeod, editor of Logistics Business magazine, and it's my great pleasure today to host the latest in a series of podcasts brought to you by materials handling solutions provider Young Heinrich UK. Warehouse automation is playing a prominent role in helping businesses keep their logistics operations productive and competitive. In today's edition of Logistics Business Conversations, we chat with Young Heinrich UK's Managing Director, Paul Lynam, and its Director of Automation Projects, Spencer Goss. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for finding time in your schedules to sit down with me and discuss all things automation today.
Thanks, Peter. Delighted to be here.
Thanks, Peter.
Paul, if I can turn to you first, can you tell me a little bit about the history of Young Heinrich and how its focus has broadened from what was predominantly a supplier of internal combustion forklift trucks to the cutting-edge intralogistics company it is today?
Sure, Peter. It's been quite a journey. I suppose the business was formed in 1953 in Germany, originally as the Young Heinrich & Co. machine fabric. And even back then, though, it had its first fledgling footsteps in the electrical equipment where it really started. So from the years, it's 70 years old this year in Germany. And of course, the business in the UK is 60 years old this year. So we've both been around for quite a long time. So, but it has been a journey, and it has seen the move from those first simple electrical pallet moving equipment and then through the combustion engine, which has certainly had a phase over the last decades. But ultimately, Young Heinrich has been a electrical transport company, and I think it's something that's almost done a full circle now when we see the electrification of transport. And I think as the business has grown from Germany and then first of all internationally into Austria and then further afield, and as I said in 63 into the UK. So you have Young Heinrich, everything from hand pallet trucks all the way through to Young Heinrich Arcalay products, or even Young Heinrich fully automated automatic storage and retrieval systems. So we have something, I think, for everybody in the market. And as our business has grown and as our experience in the market segments has grown, we develop products to go along with that. And that has been the journey, electric through IC and now ultimately back to electric again.
Yes, we've traced that route over the years. And of course, in the industry, particularly around the forklift side, we've seen a shift from internal combustion to electric, but specifically within the electrical side of the business, from lead acid to lithium ion. So how is Young Heinrich placed to move the business more towards the lithium ion side?
Sure. I think Young Heinrich is well placed. I mean, as I said, it has a pedigree of electrical products that it's offered over the years. And we believe that we're one of the current leaders in this lithium ion field, which means that we're gradually offering all of our products as well as the lead acid batteries with the lithium ion solutions. And the lithium ion brings a number of advantages over the lead acid and to a degree over the IC engines. I think the most notable ones, certainly over the lead acid, are the quicker charge times, where you can use them in I suppose, high efficiency or high productivity and high output industries. But also the fact that they've got this regular quick changing doesn't need to be done overnight. Generally, you can avoid battery swaps, and also means that you don't have the issues with the acid and the I suppose the smells and the dangers of spills in the lead acid production. So I think you open up opportunities or other areas where the lithium ion products have a definite advantage over the lead acid. Both lead acid and lithium have a role to play in certain customer requirements, but both will support the customers on their journey towards decarbonisation and the sustainability and the management of the scope 1 and scope 2 and ultimately scope 3 aspects as well for some of the customers. So I think that's what Young Heinrich has been at, and we continue to bring out products on a regular basis with the lithium ion and ever increasing power banks and power batteries.
Spencer, I can turn to you now, if I may. I could talk about forklift trucks all day long, but really we need to switch around to automation here. I'm going to ask you, from what I recall about Young Heinrich, you were one of the first major forklift truck manufacturers to establish strong credentials in the automation sector. Possibly, you could say, while some of your competitors were concerned that the move to automation may actually detract from their forklift sales. But Young Heinrich was very sort of forward in its move to automation. Can you tell us a little bit more about the philosophy behind that, and how you feel Young Heinrich was well placed to make such a decision?
Of course, so, as Paul said, over the last 70 years, we've got some real insight into the market, and it gives us a really good and unrivaled perspective on material handling and what automation would look like. So if you look at it from the beginning, our first AGV was in 1962. That was an electric wire-guided AGV. Then in 1984, we brought in our first fully automated system, our first AGV in 2010. We brought all of our controls and high-level controls and software in-house in 2013 and 15. And our first AMR was in 2021. And now we have the Power Cube. So what Young Heinrich can try to do is look at the truck market and still provide an end-to-end solution, which is from a fully managed solution all the way up to a fully integrated solution. So the automation is there, but it doesn't, the way we've got it set up, we can still deliver every phase of someone's growth and every phase of someone's development within their business.
I think maybe to add a point to that, I think you got to look at it from a perspective of what we're doing for our customers, and that we want to be able to provide a full scope from one hand. So whether you require a hand pallet truck or a simple electrical hand pallet truck, all the way up to the fully automation, you can get that from Young Heinrich. So I think it's incumbent on us then to be able to grow with the customers to meet their demands as that changes, and be that through the electrification or be that through the automation and the range of products that we bring in. As I said, so we're already involved in the racking and elements of the business, and now you bring the automation to that as well. So I think one of the key factors for Young Heinrich is that we see ourselves as being, to a degree, in the position to consult and advise our customers, but then also to provide them the full range of products that they're going to require throughout their manufacturing or storage cycle.
With the attraction of it coming from a single source.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would also like to ask you, Spencer, is it factors such as labour costs and the sort of price per square metre of warehouse space in the UK that's making automation such a compelling proposition right now, or is there more to it than that?
There's more to it than that. Obviously, cost competitive is, of course, the main driver, but automation is driven by so much more, than reduced labour costs and footprint size. We're currently experiencing a shortage of skilled labour for warehouse staff at the moment, and that's a challenge as well as a cost. So having automation available allows us to reduce some of that reduce some of that labour constraint.
I was just reflecting, I think you said it, not just on the labor, but I think the other thing that comes in with the automation here is an element of digitization. And the more of the automation process that we bring in, I think it allows us to blend that into the digital approach that we're seeing in so many businesses. And it also, to a degree, allows you to blend it into some of the ERP systems that are out there, so that what you're getting now is bringing the warehouse into the whole manufacturing chain or into the supply chain with many of our customers. And that's something that hasn't always been the case. Sometimes the warehouse was seen as that big shed at the back, but I think now with the automation, digitization is becoming a much more of a critical part in the whole supply chain that's out there.
Are there some specific challenges or opportunities that come with this move towards a more digitized intralogistics industry?
For sure. I mean, if you look at it, just consider it from the model that you have for next day or same day delivery. Having those automated processes allows you to optimize your inventory management, which allows you to then be competitive in that area. You've got a wealth of data, so having that data, having that digitalization allows you to really focus on get deeper insights on your operational trends and performance, and gives you a better insight and a much quicker continuous improvement process.
It also gives an element of, the more information you have about where actually the products are within the pipeline. So if you take a lot of the orders that you place online today, you can literally track it from leaving the customer or the order being placed out of the warehouse through the supply chain and back to the end customer. So I think you've got that, which is another part of the digitization. But I think you got to remember that the more information is there, it allows you to manage the flow and the maintenance of your stock levels to optimize those for the requirements that are there. So I think there's multiple benefits to the digitization of the supply chain process.
The big spike that we saw driving your customers towards more automation within their logistics operations?
Yes, I mean, it's the same reasons we just discussed with the labour. You know, that the home quarantine had the same effect as the skilled labour shortage we're seeing now. Being able to continue to do business, you know, with a limited workforce was extremely challenging for many businesses. Automation reduced, or in some cases, completely removed that constraint.
Yeah, yeah. And I know you mentioned PowerCube earlier, Paul. I'm speaking to you fresh from the news that Young Heinrich has won an IFOY award for its PowerCube solution. Congratulations for that. As a member of the IFOY judging panel, I have to say it was quite an outstanding entry in its class. So to be fair, I wasn't really that surprised that it picked up the coveted gong. Spencer or Paul, not sure who to throw this to, but could one of you please sort of describe to me the capabilities of PowerCube and how it can help a business sort of optimize its warehouse operations?
So, you know, the PowerCube is a bit of a game changer for us. It can be adapted to any layout. So it can fit a new warehouse, a greenfield site, or we can put it into a brownfield solution because the footprint and the profile of it can be adapted. You know, it's got a maximum height of 12 meters, which makes it the tallest compact storage system in the market. Its storage density is 4 times higher than an equivalent shelving system. It allows a smaller footprint. So we were talking about the real estate and the cost per square meter. Because of its dense design, it does allow for a very small footprint. It can be easily integrated into an existing system. So again, brownfield. It can be integrated as part of a new solution, greenfield, with a much smaller footprint, or it could be a standalone solution. So it's very, very versatile. You don't have a specific specialized floor. You don't need to do any grinding or leveling like you do with a lot of other systems. And it can be installed and commissioned very, very easily. The other good thing about it is if you want to move warehouse, you can actually unbolt it, take it with you and rebuild it in the new warehouse. The throughput is based on the number of lithium-ion shuttles that you're using, and you can scale those lithium-ion shuttles, the number of them, based on the throughput and the performances you need. Each shuttle can carry 2 big 50-kilo totes, and because we're using a standard tote, it means that you can keep the goods in that tote all the way through the storage process. So from goods in all the way through to goods to person or to packing, it can be kept in that same tote. So you've got less interface changes, less chances for jamming. So it's a very, very versatile and efficient system.
I have to say also, Young Heinrich is notable for providing end-to-end material handling solutions. I just wondered where does PowerCube sort of fit into that mix, and what sort of businesses do you expect will be attracted to the PowerCube solution?
So for me, it's existing businesses requiring additional storage, within their footprint constraints. So if you look at some of the older warehouses that have pitched eaves and pitched roofs, we can actually fill those rather than having a flat level and having all the dead space above it. So we can fit the profile of the building. It's a really good fit for pharma, 3PLs with multiple customers, because you can have various parts of the store allocated to various different customers, goods to person, and also the food market. So it's got a big, wide use.
I think one of the things that Spencer mentioned there about the ability to go into brownfield, I think it does 2 things. I mean, one is that it doesn't necessitate having complete redevelopment of new area. And the other thing I think is also Spencer mentioned is that the scalability aspect of it. So it's possible to install it in an existing space you may have today, and also then look at how you might be able to expand that as your requirements grow in the future. So I think it's a versatile. I mean, the PowerCube is definitely a versatile product. And when we first saw it at the exhibitions last year, you could see that there's potential there. And then this year again with some bigger examples of where it is, and the first pilot's already in rollout at the moment. So I think it's something that definitely will be of significant interest to many of our customers here in the UK.
Is it a misconception for me to say that automation is really only for the larger companies, or if not, what would be a typical trigger point for a smaller business to make its first move into automation?
So it's definitely not just for large scale companies. A good example is, say for instance, you have a 2-shift truck operation, floor to floor or to low level racking, and you're employing 2 handlers or 2 operators to run those 2 shifts. You could replace that with an AGV, retask the 2 employees to do more work to do with quality control or exception handling, stuff that robots can't do yet. and effectively you can get a return on investment on that within 2 years. So it does work for small businesses as well. There's a lot of opportunity.
I think it depends an awful lot on the process that you're trying to look at. So all industries will have can have some degree of highly repetitive process. I think, as Spencer said, that's where you start to see the opportunities to automate. If it's a straight line pick and drop that happens 24/7, you look to automate. But I think the other thing, and that might be for the smaller operations, but you might also have larger customers who are looking at the bigger picture in terms of automation of their goods in, excuse me, of the material handling at the end, and also the storage of the finished goods. So I think there's something there for multiple customers, and that's, I suppose, what we like to do is get out and see what the requirements are, and then see what solution is the best one for their particular challenge.
Sometimes a business may not necessarily know why things aren't going so well with its logistics operations, or what indeed it might take to fix it. Could you just talk me through a little bit about how you would consult with a customer just to help them to increase its material flow and iron out these pain points?
So that's something. We have a material flow department now, which looks at your business, analyzes how you're using your systems at the moment, looks at your performance, looks at your SKU usage, your fast moving, medium moving, slow moving components, and helps you understand the business you have. So that's irrespective of whether it's an automated system, a semi-automated system, or a manual system. So once we've done that analysis, we can then look with you at how we might be able to grow the system or change the system based on your development plan, based on your investment cycles, based on your targets over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So, we would start with looking at what you need, now. That doesn't actually have to be an automated system. That could be a completely manual system for now. Looking that when you reach a certain order level or a certain profit threshold, you want to then look at semi-automated. So we would go through that journey with the customer. One of the challenges we're finding at the moment is that a lot of the customers that we have, or prospective customers, say we want automation, but are relatively new to it or nervous of what that means. And we do, the way we do our material flow consulting, we look at the system, look at what you want, look at where you want to go, and help you along that journey.
I think one of the other angles of that, Spencer, as well, is that if you look at, we said we've been in the UK supplying the industry here for the last 60 years, so it gives us and members of the team great insights to what journey the customers have been on. And part of this is about designing the right solution for that particular customer. So we have the benefit of understanding what the challenges may have been, what the advantages and disadvantages are in terms of the trucks that have been used, and therefore also where you see the opportunity to apply the automation. And I think we've also, because of the nature of the group, that we have a certain amount of expertise that we have in country, and for certain projects then, if it's big scale automation and ASRS solutions, we have the ability to tap into the wider Young Heinrich network through the hub that we've set up here in Northwest Europe, and also then to tap back into headquarters in Munich and Hamburg for specific technology and support that may require. So I think you don't just get the one guy who may be knocking on your door here in the UK, but you get the full Young Heinrich global network behind it to provide the right solution to the customer at that moment in time.
I think we're working in an industry, and we're grateful to be working in an industry where data and metrics are very much to the forefront. So does that make it possible for you to accurately calculate the ROI, return on investment, that automation brings?
Yes, I think it does reasonably accurately. We can look at the processes that are currently in place in the business, or the processes that we're putting in place, and you can work it out on a cost per unit transported, or a return on investment on the labour saved by automating, or a return on investment or the improvement in throughput that you get. So it is easy to calculate that, and I think that's one of the things that helps customers make that step, because we do put an overview on what the return on investment of some of our systems is.
I think one of the important things there as well, Spencer, that it depends on how much data you have. Like it's the more data you put in, the more analysis and more accurate information you get out. So, if the customer doesn't already have a certain amount of base data, we can support them in identifying what that should be. But you do need to, like in all these things, the better the input quality, the better the output result is. So I think that's something that you got to bear in mind as well, that there will be opportunities where the accuracy of the output is limited by the input of the quality of the input of the data. But that said, we know we can point you in the right direction as to the types of information and data that is required, and then work out, what we expect the output to be. And I think you also got to bear in mind, it's not just about automating a process. What we do in terms of the analysis is not just looking at saying, well, let's just automate moving pallet from A to B. There is an element where you need to look at the absolute flow of goods, and that you might not just automate that step. You might be looking at how you redesign the flow of material to make the best use of the automation rather than automating the old system.
Right. Is there such a sort of typical example of how a business can benefit from automation, or and what the ROI is, or is that a bit like asking how long is a piece of string?
I think it's unfortunately close to asking how long that piece of string is. I think it depends on the requirements. I think Spencer touched on some of them. Like, it depends on the throughput. It depends on maybe the value of goods. It depends on what your risk in your supply chain is, or within the process. I mean, if it's time that you're only saving, it depends on the value of the goods. So every avoidance of a drop pallet or something like that from an automation system, or every less damaged good would have a much bigger payback than, say, the sake of just saving a certain amount of time. So I think it's about looking at what the individual requirement is of the customer, and then trying to estimate, based on the data we've got, what sort of solution it will be, how technical and how advanced that solution may require to be, what it needs to be integrated into, and then looking at the cost and the payback. That would be my take on Spencer's. I don't know whether you'd see that any differently.
No. That's I'm aligned with that, Paul.
In a previous edition of Logistics Business Conversations, brought to you by Young Heinrich, we talked extensively with some of the experts from the Carbon Trust about the decarbonisation of the supply chain. What part would you say does Young Heinrich play in helping its customers achieve their sustainability targets?
Well, I think it probably plays multiple roles in it. I think one of the objectives that we have from group level and also here in the UK is, I suppose, to improve the sustainability of the overall process. And that means the end-to-end life of the goods and of our products. So we support our customers on one side, but we're also working on sustainability ourselves, be that around the move towards electric fork trucks away from the IC, but also further than that. I mean, if it's around the electrification of our own vehicles and our own fleet, it may be around the fact that we put solar panels on the roofs of our buildings. So it starts back there, and actually even goes further back. I mean, on some of the products that we have now, it goes right back into the supply chain in terms of trying to deliver our power line carrier trucks to the customer sites that will be carbon free to point of delivery. So I think that's sort of just one element of it that we would be involved in.
I have to confess, I'm a bit of a forklift truck geek. Will there always be a place for forklifts in the warehouse of tomorrow, or will we one day see them relegated to a museum alongside steam trains and fax machines?
Peter, I think we're quite a way away from completely removing manual forklifts from the warehouse. If you think about it from a sole trader or a very small business, they're only really going to adopt an AGV when there is a true benefit in terms of financial return. And that will only come with technology scaling and the associated cost reductions that we get from that as we sell more cheaper. If you think about it from the one delivery driver with a truck delivering to several of his customers, all with different sites. There's different floor levels, inclines, declines to other vehicles. There's people in the place. If you think about the autonomous technologies that we have in place at the moment, we're only just starting to get comfortable with autonomous cars. So, that's on roads that have standard layouts and a prescribed and understood set of rules. So I think that there's a place for a forklift to come for a very long time. It will reduce, as we go forwards, but it's there for a fair while still.
I think you got to remember that forklift is rather a generic term, and it's got quite a wide scope as well. And I think, as Spencer alluded to, that there are elements of it that are probably will be automated quicker than other aspects of it. And I think I absolutely agree that we will have fork trucks in all their forms, manual fork trucks in all the forms with us for a long time to come. And even down to the simplest forms, you see them on the back of larger delivery trucks or even front of store in supermarkets. And I'm sure there'll be places where it'll never happen. And I hope that those fork trucks don't all end up in a museum someday, but that there's still plenty more mileage left in many of those for the right customer and the right requirement.
I have to agree with you there, Paul, 100%. So at the start of the podcast, we talked about a little bit about the past. And now as we reach the end, maybe it's a good time to ask, what does the future look like for Young Heinrich?
So in terms of the automation, there will be increasingly more robotics. We will automate more of our product line. Our vehicles become more autonomous, and we will have a much better set of safety rules that allow us to make areas more open plan. So, V&A aisles will not be protected by level 3 gates in the future and fencing. You will have a much more integrated warehouse. In terms of software solutions, we have the machine learning, we've got artificial intelligence getting better every day. I think the warehouse management solutions, the way they work at the moment is very standalone. If you consider, a few years down the line, I think you'll have it that the trucks delivering the goods are fully linked into the ERP or to the warehouse management system. We will know when things are arriving, and we will optimize even further in terms of accuracy of shipments, performance of deliveries. Everything will get better because everything else will be more integrated. The warehouse, several warehouses will be working on one system. So I see a more integrated and driven by artificial intelligence future.
I think as well, like if I look at the future of Young Heinrich for the UK, I think there's a couple of other angles as well. The electrification, the digitalisation, and globalisation. I think all of those will impact where we end up. So yes, definitely the journey is electric, in our opinion. And some people may say there's other fuel sources out there, and we'll see where this all goes. But we will continue the journey to be the leader in terms of the lithium ion for our products. But there's also other things that I think you need to consider. I mean, one is that for us, we will still have fields of engineers in the foreseeable future that are out keeping these trucks and the electrical equipment and the automation equipment running. So, in that respect, things won't change that much, but we'll probably have more external access to some of the data that these trucks can provide, whereas in the past that wasn't the case. So hopefully we'll be able to be more preventative in terms of the solutions, or preventative in terms of the maintenance for trucks and identifying things before some of the stuff happens. I think you're also going to see further development in terms of safety. And as you get this sort of hybrid environment for automation, semi-automation, and moving an environment where people are still around in some of the larger warehouses, I think you're going to see further trends towards the safety aspects and how trucks interact with human beings. I think you're going to see that. I think you're probably also going to see much more data being made available. And that's something that Young Heinrich will be able to analyze and provide back, or the customers may choose to analyze themselves. I mean, we look at usage uptimes. We use that then to optimize the maintenance of the equipment as well. So I think you've got that. You'd also be looking at possibly monitoring the availability of some of the automating equipment on the customer side. So I think that's something that will be coming down the track with it as well. So I think that there's a lot happening in there. I think we will still, in 60 years' time, hopefully be a main player in the UK market with the Young Heinrich colleagues that will sell, serve, advise, and provide the service and the expertise that the customers in the UK require from us. So I think it's been an interesting 60 years. I think there's a lot of change coming down the track, but I still expect that there will be a Young Heinrich UK in 60 years' time as well.
Well, that's a great place to finish. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. The time has flown by, and it probably seems as good a point as any to bring our interesting chat to a close. So it remains for me to say a big thank you to my two guests, Paul Lynam and Spencer Goss, and to thank Young Heinrich UK for supporting this edition of Logistics Business Conversations. You can find out more about Young Heinrich's automation by visiting www.jungheinrich.co.uk. Please remember to like and subscribe to Logistics Business Conversations on whatever channel you're listening to us. I look forward to bringing you the next edition, but until then, it's goodbye from me, Peter MacLeod, and thank you for joining us today.